Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome to episode 170. You know, and I was, the other night I had a dream. And in the dream I was talking to Jennifer, my friend, Jennifer Contreras, and she was saying how proud she was of me for doing the 100-mile race, which was a couple years ago. And I told her I gave it everything I had and was happy that I could finish it, but I felt I was beat to shreds. And she laughed and she said, yeah, it looks like you are in this picture. And the picture she was holding was of me after I had finished the race. And I was sitting on a rock looking at the camera. And I was wearing an earth-colored tank top and a hydration pack. As you can tell, I'm a very lucid dreamer. And I was leaning over, looking straight ahead. And the thing was, I was thin. I had defined arms and shoulders. I was wearing a trucker's hat with Fat Slow Triathlete on the front of it. And my hair was long to my shoulders. And my beard was longer than it is now. And I was wearing sunglasses, which is odd because I wear glasses, so I don't usually wear sunglasses. I was haggard looking. I was like, you could tell I was just beat to shreds, but, you know, I had lines of dirt and sweat creasing my face. But the one thing that was striking in the picture, even in the dream, was that I was smiling. Now, if you follow the Facebook page and the blog and stuff, you know, I'm told all the time I should smile more. So that was striking enough. So when I woke up, I was wondering all day if that was, you know, how I really wanted to look and how I wanted to be. And the answer is yes. This is how I want to be, and it's how I see myself inside, and it's the image I choose to portray if I was given the chance. I'm not comfortable in collared shirts and slacks and sitting at a desk, and you know, which is what my day is most of the time. But I am good at what I do for work. But if I could do anything I wanted to do, would this really be the life I chose for myself? And the short answer is no, it isn't, you know, but at my age, I'm 55 years old, and it's kind of like you get the feeling, and I know what the answer is going to be to this with a lot of people, but you get the feeling that it's a little bit too late to change your course in life at this point. But, you know, rediscovering things like endurance racing and triathlons, and recently really swimming a lot, you almost get this melancholy feeling about it sometimes, that you wish you had started it sooner. You know, it's good that you started it at all, but how many years were wasted, you know, just wallowing around in it. You know, my life has been you know, for the most part, about doing things in order to either please someone else or to provide for someone else. And I started in college after the Navy in pursuit of something I wanted to do, which was forensic psychology. I wanted to be in the FBI. So I got a BA in psychology and applied, made it through a few interviews and the testing and everything, and I got dropped. And I still could have went after the forensic side, but I needed to provide for my family. So I went and got a master's in public administration, and thinking that was going to be, you know, something that could provide well. And when that proved that, you know, because MPAs usually work in nonprofits and government and things like that, which is ironic in itself, but the money really wasn't what I needed it to be. So had an opportunity to apply for a scholarship for an MBA program at University of South Florida, and the second year got it. So I ended up with an MBA, and you know, and to be brutally honest, it's done little for me except put me in debt, you know, that I'll never pay off in this lifetime. And to be brutally honest again, what I do for work right now, I could have done with after I left the Navy with no further training. And I just find it easy. And numbers and stats, finding root causes is easy for me. I think that's why I work well as a coach and how I coach, because I get to the bottom of things pretty fast and can figure out ways to improve things. But I really didn't need those degrees except to separate myself from the other people applying. So here I am at 55, still not doing what I want to do and feeling tethered somewhat to a life I didn't want and don't enjoy. And the dream picture, the man in the dream, is what I want. And you have to, again, I know how this sounds, but you have to wonder if there's enough time to find that man. And I'm doing what I can. I survived cancer. I fight every day with psoriatic arthritis, and I have plantar fasciitis. I have foot issues. I still struggle with weight. It almost seems like my body and my age is doing their damnedest to keep me on the sideline. And at some point, you wonder if they're going to win. The body's going to win eventually, but I'm trying to fight it off as best I can. So, that doesn't leave a lot of room for, again, advancement in the job. It doesn't leave a lot of room for relationships, especially ones that don't understand what you're trying to do. And it's like I said last week, you have to figure out what you value in life and how to move towards those things. So, and removing kind of the things that blockade that, even if it hurts. And, I've tried to start doing that. And, at the end, you're tired of trying to give everything to people and to jobs, and it ends up being thrown back in your face as if you never meant anything to them. Or, the hard truth about work is that, they'll replace you in a week. They don't. They want to project, most places. I'm not going to say all jobs are like this, but most jobs are, they take what you give them for when you can give it to them. And, when you're no use to them anymore, or when you leave, they replace you and they move on. Life moves on, So, you have to at some point wonder if you're going to have that kind of life, or if you're going to do these kinds of things for people, at least make it worth it. And I have no time or patience for people saying to me, especially in relationships, if you have to train every night and on the weekends, when is there time for me? And I'm just sorry if they can't be part of it or support it, then I really have no need for them in my life. And that doesn't, bode well for future relationships, or, current ones, or anything. So, I was talking online to a friend once and said, you can, that offered, you can come up here anytime to kayak, bike, and this is up in the Northeast. And another friend always has invited me to Boston times to hang out for weekends, training or not. And I wish I could do it. I just can't afford it. And there's a rub. As Rob reminded me one time, this old adage that we work hard on jobs we hate to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't like. And I was commenting to Jennifer over lunch one day that I just don't have time, or the need, or the actual want to spend time with people I don't like or don't get along with, just to satisfy some, bullshit notion of networking. It's not that I don't like people. Obviously, I like people, or I can't talk to people. I talk to people all the time. But, there's people I can talk to more. But if I just, the older you get, as they say, the older you get, the less time you have for, bullshit. And the more you're open to calling people on that kind of bullshit. But, if I don't like you, you treat me as, if you treat me not respectfully or anything, I'm not going to waste my time on you. After 55 years, I guess, of trying to be there for other people and doing what other people expected, it's probably about time for me. And I know how cliche that sounds, but that's where this is all heading. So on today's show, this is enough for me. On today's show, Rob's back, so he recorded a couple of things for us, and he's going to give us an update of where he is now, and then he's joined by Pete D'Amico, and they're going to talk about Pete's training for his first ever marathon and how that's been going. I think Rob's running that with him, so we're going to pop those in. I hope you enjoy it, and We'll see you back here. And I know I haven't been posting as much as I should be, but we're trying to get some things lined up. We're going to bring Rob back in capacities like this. And I know everybody's interested in how he's doing and where he's been lately. So let's get over to Rob and we'll talk soon.
Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.
Hello, Endurance for Everyone. It's Rob coming back at you. Been a little bit, but I wanted to try to give you guys an update. So back there in December, John, Pete, and I sat down and had a little bit of a session. I say little, I guess it was an hour we were on the phone there, and went through and I'd said at the end how I was going to be stepping away for a while. But I've had a lot of you guys reaching out to me and asking me what's going on, what's happening, what's doing, and so forth. So I wanted to give you guys an update. So I'm going to try to hit it chronologically, make sure I don't miss anything, but I'll give you a rundown on what I have going on and then, what's maybe coming for the year here. So, long and the short, I told you guys I was going to be studying for a Series 65 test. It looks like, I don't know if it cut out or if I misspoke, but I am studying for the Series 65 exam, not the Series 5 is how it came across on the show. Not that makes any difference, but, it comes down to prioritizing your time and what you have able to do and such. So, that being said is I get up and I, go do my workouts in the morning. I come to work and do my studying, and then, 5 o'clock to 8:30 at night is like non-negotiable family time. It's dinner time. It's no phones or internet, and push forward from there doing family stuff. And then by the time that I would be eligible or able to maybe get back on and record, it hasn't lined up for John and I to be able to get together at the same time. So that's why John's been doing his thing, and I'm just trying to check in to give you update on me here. So on the days that I am available, he's not available. On the days that he's available to do it, my wife has meetings and I can't do it. It's all irrelevant, just basically hasn't worked out, and I don't really foresee that changing for when John and I are going to be able to get together to actually do a recording, a back and forth like it had been for a while. So, what's new? What's up with Rob? Well, you guys know, like last year, I was in Facebook every day there, the beginning of the year, and I was posting my workouts and my training and such. I was following Hanson's plan, 6 days a week of running. I was putting up my runs, and I was doing blog entries. Then I went and did Chicago later in the year, set my PR. Woohoo! Got to mention that as many times as I can. And then, kind of fell off and didn't know what was next. So here's my year laid out, and then I'll go through what I've been doing. I'm going to be going down and doing the One City Marathon with Pete, in the group, and from Fatman Chronicles. We're actually going to record a show here soon and get that out to you, basically talking about Pete getting ready and how his training's been going, maybe a little my training and what's to follow there. That's our first weekend of March. That the marathon is. That show would probably be out sooner. Then I'm going to go ahead. I've signed up, and I'm going to do the Delaware Running Festival marathon, which is in end of April. I think it's the 28th. Then I'm going to take a little bit of time off, a month or two, maybe readjust to what's going on. And then I'm going to hit training plan once again, and what exactly to what extent has yet to be determined. And I'll get to that in a minute here, because I did put in the Chicago lottery and got into Chicago again for 2019. But when I say not just I got in, I know several group members, out there. Kevin Lingle, Brandon Miller both got in. Christopher Garman, my other friend Doug as well. So we're gonna have quite a contingent of folk going out to do Chicago this year, and a lot of people say, well, what's that mean? Like, even my wife, and are you going to run with somebody, or are you going to go for PR? And a lot of it, I don't know. So as I said, I've been doing my my training plan, and I'm going to run with Pete. So, Pete has a goal in mind, and we'll discuss that on the other show. Basically, I'm going to run that marathon, the one city in Newport News, early March, with Pete. Plan to run every step of that with him. I signed up and to do like I said, the Delaware. The idea being, I don't know what I'm going to get out of that one, and I want to see. And what I mean by that is, instead of doing 6 days a week of running, I've been trying to run. I say trying because it's polar vortex weather up here. -4 this morning, so I'm not running outside, and long runs on the treadmill just aren't fun. So I've been trying to do 4 days a week of running with 2 to 3 days a week of biking. Getting into that, I signed up, and you guys have sort of seen it in the group. I put a couple things out there. I signed up for Zwift, and I was giving that a go for a bit, and it's a little addicting, and I'll talk about that here. But so I've been cycling a lot more than I've been running, but using the Delaware as a benchmark almost is kind of the idea, to then see how the summer is going to play out. And I say that because the Hansen plan is 4 days of 3 to 4 days of work, and then a couple days of easy running. I've been substituting. We're planning to use these Zwift rides, or these bicycle trainer rides, as my easy runs. It's the same amount of time that I'm working out, so it still puts the fatigue in the legs, but I'm still been trying to hit my speed, my tempo, my long runs, because you need to train running in order to run. Biking and running, they translate, but not 100% to each other. So I don't know. I don't want to give it statistically and say 60%, 80%, or whatever, which way it goes. But you will be able to get better by doing one for the other, but not necessarily see 100% of the results. So that's why I wanted to use the Delaware race as a benchmark to see, how much cycling can I do and still see the gains and improvement in the fitness for the running, and then also figure out, if I want. Do I want to cycle through the summer, or do I want to try to go for a PR again? That I figured that take the first part of the year, really figure out how the fitness is going, and really how that translates. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm looking at. So I want to just take a few minutes now and talk a little bit about Zwift and indoor training and cycling, and then some little things that I've picked up thus far, down a rabbit hole where I went with it, and try to give you guys some tips or tricks or pointers that I've found along the way thus far. So, first and foremost, what is Zwift? Well, it's something you pay for. It's like $15 a month, and I don't want to say it, but it's almost like a video game. So the first day I got onto it, there's a 7-day free trial. You can sign up. 2 to 3 different ways, I guess, you can do it. If you have an iPad or any Bluetooth, if your bike, or if you have because I just have an old bike. I had a speed and cadence sensor that I've had for years. It's a Garmin one. It's an Ant Plus, not Bluetooth. So it talks to my watch, tells me my speed and all that. But also there's that when you buy those, they come with what is called the dongle, the little chip that plugs in your computer. So I was able to plug that in. So my bike was talking to my computer, and I was on my old air quote, dumb trainer where you have to manually set the resistance and so forth. First day I get on Zwift, I set the computer to the side. I'm not paying any attention to it. I'm just riding as I'm normally riding and not nearly caring or paying attention. I get to the end, it records the workout, whatever. I'm like, well, that really didn't do anything. So the next day, day two, I should say, I get on Zwift. I do what I see everybody else doing on Facebook. So when I say, yeah, I kind of stalk on Facebook. So I joined several different groups, one of which is like Zwift Riders, one of which was DIRT, D-I-R-T, Dads Inside Riding Trainers. Just a quick aside on them. It's a great community for any gentleman out there. I'd say it because the first thing in the title there is dads. If you're going to be doing any of this, it's a very supportive, fun group, kind of like Sub 30 is for running. That is for cycling. A bunch of newbie questions answered, and it's a supportive group of like-minded folks. And then when I was having some questions, they were able to answer them for me on how some things worked and what would work better or not. So anyways, what's everybody posting pictures of? You see the photos of the bike with the computer or the television in front of it, all that stuff, and kind of the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. Easiest way to say it, that's exactly what it is. So the second day I was doing it, the first day I put the computer in front of me, I started to get it, to understand it a little more. Your little guy, you're pedaling, your little guy on the screen is moving along, or girl if you set up your avatar that way. You see him pedaling and going, and it's a lot of fun to see that. And you're passing people, and you can like message and such. And if you're just in there riding solo, it is what it is. I eventually ended up borrowing a smart trainer from somebody, and that takes it to a whole new level, like a whole different level, because this is now where, like I'm going to use one of the courses is New York, Central Park. So, as you're riding along, you start going up a hill, the trainer automatically starts making it a little tougher to pedal. You go downhill, it starts making it a little bit easier to pedal. So it's automatically adjusting the tension. You're then using the gearing on your bike, going faster, going slower and such. And it's, it does that. It adds a whole different dimension, makes it really fun. Additionally, that's when I started joining in on some of these group rides and races and events. So about a week, 2 weeks in, this is now post-Christmas, right after New Year's time frame, I started getting in and finding these group rides right on their webpage, Zwift.com. They have an events. You can see what's upcoming. You can click. You can join. So now it's like you're riding you literally are riding with a group of people. There are no fake computers or whatnot. These are all people from all over the world, from Britain, from Singapore, from China, from Canada, Once again, you can get a little group chat. You can be talking to people. Where are you from? How you doing, etc. And it's really, it adds a much different element to it. And I say that everybody, you get that, when you're riding with somebody, it's much different. But whereas I used to be doing these workouts, when John was putting workouts on my calendar a year or two ago and saying, do this at this resistance level or do this at this, I would sit on the bike and I would watch Netflix or I would listen to a podcast or I'd do something like that. And it would be all I could do to be on that bike for 20 minutes or half hour, an hour, and I just hated it. I mean, it was just torture. It's like, everyone, it's like getting on the treadmill, just not the funnest thing that you want to be doing. So, now I'm out there riding with these people, and it's just like you're out. When I say just like you're outside, you kind of get involved, or you get into it. You're really intrigued by what's happening. I've now done, in the matter of 30 days, 45 days, I've been out there doing it. I've literally been doing an hour and a half, 2-hour rides, and it goes by in the blink of an eye. Like I never thought I'd be able to sit inside and pedal that long. And if you've been skeptical of it, I highly recommend signing up and giving it the going through that 7-day free trial and checking it out and really seeing what it's about. But I'm going to tell you, you gotta buy in. And when I say buy in, put the screen in front of you, your computer or your laptop or your iPad, or use the TV. You know what I mean? It makes a much of a difference when I had the screen in front of me versus sitting to the side and just letting it do its little recording thing. I've just had a whole lot of fun doing that. To the point, though, I'm coming all the way back around, you gotta limit it too. I mean, it was to the point where I couldn't sleep one night, so I was on the trainer at 4 a.m. I did a 2-hour King of the Mountain climb I was supposed to do a 10-mile run later that morning. Had friends that I was going to go run with, and so I did that ride. Went out then and went to try to join the friends. I rode from 4 to 6. 6:30ish I was done maybe, and then I literally changed my clothes, went out for a run. I was so tired that I could only go for 3 miles. So now here's when I say my dilemma, where I feel like I was failing in life, and that is I was too worried or too concerned about my online friends and my online life than my in real life. And these are folks that want to go for a run with me, and we had plans. And I showed up and just said, "Hey, just a heads up, I'm a little tired," and I had to bail out. So you got to find that balance. Once again, I'm hoping or figuring or thinking that this cross training is going to work and help my running. But if I'm now cycling 5 days a week and running 2, that's not going to necessarily get me to where I need to be, and I need to start, guiding it back in the other direction, getting my runs in and getting those quality workouts in. So, I guess I want to, summarize, because I said it to myself, and now I have to say it daily. In real life is better than online. Like I'm in the middle of some challenges and some rides. One's called Tour de Zwift, where you go through and do these 9 stages and you unlock a jersey. So, it's just like any other game. I've never played Candy Crush or Fortnite or any of those, but you work so hard to unlock these online things that are only important to you or to people that are in the game. But I got people that are willing and ready to, hang out with me in real life. I got to put precedence over that and get out there. So I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Just don't let yourself get too deep and too involved, if you still have the opportunity. But if you're literally, when I say like me, this last week it's been in negative temperatures. I know Pete, I was watching out there in Chicago, it was negative 20 with a wind chill of negative 50. You're not going to get your running in anyway. So if you have the opportunity, a bike, a trainer, and you can, jump on and check this out, I highly recommend it. But for me, any day that I can get outside and do something in real life is what I want to do. That's about all I have to say on it. I highly recommend it. Just you got to temper it, just like with anything, everything in moderation, I guess. So what's that mean? I really don't know when I say what's next. I could tell you, like I said, I'm going to record with Pete. We're going to talk about the race that is upcoming. I'm going to run that race with Pete. I'm going to run the Delaware Festival Marathon April 28th. A few weeks off, and then at that point I should have enough data to know if I'm going to be running, biking, which ones, and I'll have to make a determination what I'm going to do, what my goal should be, I should say, for Chicago. So that's my update. That's my last few, weeks. That's my next few weeks, and hope that you guys, have got something out of this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Hey guys, it's Rob again, coming back at you with another show, as I had promised in one of the most recent ones. I have Pete on the line. Pete, you want to say hi?
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. Yourself?
I'm doing great.
Great. So Pete, I'll give a little more intro, and then we'll just get right into it. And that is, Pete, are from the group and from the Fatman Chronicles show. He is on, and we're going to be discussing his upcoming race. I should say our upcoming race, which is just about a month away at this point. And I've kind of given you guys my training update, but I want to, since we're kind of jumping into this, like changing a horse midstream, we're Pete and I are both several months into our training at this point. So we're going to just give some rundown on, how Pete, why he chose to do a marathon. Which one he selected, why he selected it, how training's been going, what we expect in the next few weeks, and then we'll go from there. So Pete, without further ado on that, you heard the outline. What's up? I mean, let's start with, when I say let's hit it chronologically, let's go back in time. We don't need to discuss negative 50-degree temperatures right now, but we're going to get there because that's kind of important. But, let's talk, what made you decide to do a marathon, and how'd you select it and so forth?
So, marathon has been a bucket list item for me and probably many, many others. And if anybody wants to run, it often ends up on your bucket list. So, it's been there for a long time. And truth be told, it's not the first marathon I've signed up for. It will be the first marathon that I'm going to do and complete. I
Okay.
probably have signed up for, I want to say, probably three, maybe four in the past. And inevitably either had to miss it or went down to a half marathon.
Okay.
And not and I love the half marathon distance, and I just never had the discipline to get to where I wanted to be. So once I really found my groove in running, which is just around 2 years ago now, I really wanted to get a marathon in. And once I conquered my half marathon blues, um, I really felt like it was the next step that I wanted to take. For whatever reason, I do like speed and going faster, but distance really appeals to me. Maybe it's the way I'm built, but going longer is really really something that I enjoy. I like being out there for a long time. So
Okay.
that's that's
I,
really
I
kind
want
of
to
how I
jump
got
back right in and one thing there, and it's a leading question more so. We had you, when I said we had you on, meet you, what's the correct English here? You, John, and myself were on a show in December there, and you were asking, the discussion was centralized around you asking me and John about distance, about ultra, and so forth. And without really letting the cat out of the bag, going way out of order, I know you, I believe, are looking at doing something much longer than a marathon later this year. So is this, when I say the catalyst or a byproduct, is this something that you're using this as a judgment to see if longer because you like it is something you want to do, or is this more I'm going to be going longer in the year anyways, and this fills in and checks the list?
I think it's a little bit of both. The longer distances, the ultra distances, I think appealed to me just because I really learned to enjoy the trail last year and this well, I guess we're in 2019, so it would be last year. So that race that I got to do with Karen out in Pennsylvania, that really was a lot of fun, and I definitely want to do that. To me, this checks the box of I've always wanted to do a marathon. um, I will do a longer race, not significantly longer yet, but that next step up of a 50K, I am signed up for in August at the Badger Trail Races in Wisconsin. So nothing like an August day to get a 50K in.
Yeah, right. That'll be nice and cool for you.
Yeah, yeah, but it's on a flat rail trail, more or less. I don't know if it's rail trail, but it's definitely flat. So I think that and you've got a ton of time to complete the 50K. You have 11 hours, so you can walk it, crawl it, you can make it, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm not looking past this marathon, to be honest. I really want to get this done, and I want to have fun doing it, and that's kind of my goal. I talked about that on one of our Fatman Chronicles shows. Is I want to do the race and enjoy it. That's the goal. No time goal. Just want to enjoy it.
Okay, so with that, and I would say, having done several of these, and that's why everybody always says your first one, exactly what you're saying. Don't have a time goal. Have a just finish and enjoy it because you're never going to get to have a first one again. You know, so I think that's great to hear that that's your thought process on it. But maybe when I say shifting it, but asking with your training, then what have you been doing? And I know, and I've seen you've been doing tempo runs. Tempo is usually based off of a time goal, though, a time specific. So what have you been doing? How did you figure that out, set those baselines? What have you been doing? Because even if you don't have a time goal, secretly we all have an idea or something. Like, so how did you come to where you're at, and what have you been doing with that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I've got a coach, so I highly recommend people taking a look at coaches, especially if they're more of a neophyte like myself, and really trying to understand things. I know that John coaches, and I use Andy over at Silver Fox. There's really a lot to be said for that. So the training is assigned to me. The paces are based off of my half marathon times up until now. So there are tempo runs. So when I say that I don't have a time goal, I wanna maybe explain what I mean because I want to be in shape. Like if I was going for it that day, I could be a sub 5 hour
Okay.
time frame. So I want to be in the shape to do a sub 5 marathon. While I'm out there, if I'm going to put times around it, if you and I are out there for less than 6 hours, I'm happy. If we're out there for less than 5.5, I'm absolutely thrilled.
Right.
And I think that if I'm at 5.5 or less, I'm going to feel pretty good at that point. And you should be perfectly fine given where you're at in, your PR and where you're at in your training. So I think we could have a really good time being able to, kind of go the whole thing conversational pace and just get, I don't know, take in the scenery, take in the crowds, each other's company. I think that we're going to have a really good time. But I do want to be able to walk afterwards. And that's where I think the big key is. I'm doing the work to be a sub 5 hour. And maybe that's what my goal will be if I, decide to do maybe a fall marathon. Maybe I'll do that one for time. I haven't decided what I'm going to do on that part yet. I kind of want to get through this first one and start to do some more trail running. But other than that, I really want to make sure that my fitness is at a point where going 5.5 hours or 5 hours and 15 minutes means that, okay, that was completely within myself. That was a quote unquote easy run.
Got it. Makes sense. Now, one thing that, and I'll say data, and I have discussed it before, and I know you pay attention to some of it and I don't want to say don't put as much stock in it. You've heard it, our listeners have heard it. I talked about the differences in 2018 between, I'm going to say, my prior Pittsburgh marathon, my 2018 Pittsburgh, leading into then my Chicago. And once again, you say easy. I look at my heart rate zone, and that I did how I did most of my running in the zone 2, and I know because I'm connected with you on Garmin, I can see it, and you and I have had that discussion. Yours is a little all over the place, so I assume you're going, when I say that the definition of easy is, we, like you said, conversational. We were talking, we have fun, because your heart rate data I know can be all over the place on there, right?
It is. My heart rate tends to run high, and it always has. So I'm a few steps out of the gate running, and I'm in zone 3, zone 4 pretty fast. I can stay. I can tell you too that I can stay at that level where I'm at for a long time. So not to jump into the training part too much, but the 1 miler that I did, I felt like I could have just kept going at that pace all the way through a marathon distance. And to prove that, I kind of said, well, I wonder what I could do now for mile 18. And I threw down my fastest mile, and it was a minute faster than my average pace for the run.
Right.
So, there was stuff left in the tank, and that's where I'm not quite as concerned about the heart rate. I mean, I find the heart rate stuff interesting. I just don't see improvement like other people see, I guess, for whatever reason. I guess we're all that N=1 physiology.
Yes, I agree. And that's why I said it's something that I noticed has tracked for me, but just because it tracks for me doesn't mean it's the answer for everyone, and that's why, us assign when I say it this way, the same run or the same, whether you want to say distance, tempo, intensity, whatever, the results can just be different based on person, based on is physiology the correct word there? You know what I mean? Based on how your body is designed or might be handling things different. So.
Yeah. And I can't tell you in terms of what it should be, or I've never gotten tested or anything, but I can just say that my heart rate is about the same now at my assigned easy pace as it was before, and it's about a minute and a half faster per mile.
Well, and
So
that is something I want to say that I've noticed and that everyone consistently across the board says. I'm glad to hear that it is tracking that way for you, and that, like you said, is your heart rate. Just, I'm going to call it zone 2 for lack of a better term, but if you just pick any heart rate, could be 130, could be 150, makes no difference. But if you are consistent in your training, and you just said you've been consistent for 2 years, over time, whether it's that zone or whether it's that specific beats per minute, you will or you should be getting faster. If you're eventually we'll all plateau, but for the first, I'm going to even just say maybe 3 years, 5 years, you should be seeing improvements with that. And I'm glad to hear that you are still seeing those gains. So how did you, and you said this way, and forgive me going back to it, you said this was the first one you're going to make it to. You've signed up for ones in the past. How'd you pick this one? What are we looking at here? I know, but and I know you've shared it on your show, but maybe give us a line or two on how you picked it.
sure, I think it's a little bit. I was kind of working backwards. I knew that I was in some pretty good shape right now, and I knew that my training cycle could take me right up to a marathon in late February through middle of March, if you will. And for me, there's only a few weekends I can do that because of the fact that I have my older kids every other week, and I don't want to burden them with traveling for a race, and I didn't want to waste the fitness that I had accomplished. And I was in a really good mental spot too. So I thought signing up for one would be awesome. What I wanted was something in that time frame. I wanted my first one to be flat, and I wanted something that wasn't necessarily hot or warm, but was reasonable in temperatures. I guess I just didn't want to have a potential snowstorm on race day if I could avoid it.
Right.
So when I looked around, I found the One City Marathon in Newport News, Virginia, and it fit all the criteria. Oh, I also wanted smaller. So I had looked at something like Houston, which is January, but I still could have been ready. But I didn't want anything that big. So for my first one, I didn't want to be standing in a corral for an hour or two or three or four, even like what happens in Chicago. So in order to kind of get some of those morning of nerves out, I just wanted something that was a reasonable size. And this one is actually fairly small for the marathon itself, but it has a half marathon that's been added. It has an 8K. So there's a lot of people. So it's a big deal, but there's maybe 400, 500 marathoners.
Yeah.
So a smaller field for the marathon, but the course is flat. It's kind of on the water there in Newport News, so it's kind of buffered from that perspective. The weather is usually pretty good. I mean, it could rain or whatever any day, but overall, it's a fairly dry time for them. And small, flat, kind of fit all the criteria. So March 3rd fit. So I was like, why not? It was really kind of perfect timing for us.
Cool. Cool. Good rationale, and not turning it to me too much, but I would say that's the first thing I did whenever my first marathon was Erie, and that's on Presque Isle up there in Pennsylvania. And once again, like you said, flat, warm, but not too hot because it's September, so we're through the hot, etc. Same criteria, just kind of on the back end. And when you say it fits, my goal was, I needed to lose weight, so that's why I said, heck with it, I'm going to do a marathon, and I picked it because it was like 9.5 months away. And I knew once again I could be trained in time. So it's funny to hear that same thought process that kind of leads us all around to to very similar conclusions there. So what?
Well, I think it's important for you, just in general, if you're going to do one of these races, to understand yourself and don't compromise. Don't, I know we tend to crowdsource a lot of information these days,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's a bad thing to ask questions, but I looked at, I don't know, 30 races before I decided on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought about what I wanted, and I got a lot of people when I said, "Hey, I'm looking at it." I got a lot of suggestions on which ones to look at.
Mm-hmm.
but I thought it was important that I really stay true to myself.
Yep.
And I think it's important for everybody. If you're going to go tackle a goal like this, it's a big deal. So,
Mm-hmm.
I know we talk about ultras, we talk about half marathons. Look, any running at all is painful at some point in time, and it's a big deal. I mean, if you're racing a mile, that's flat out. You're racing a 5K, it's pretty darn close to flat out, the entire time that you're out there. And as you go up in distance, you're just trading that hard effort in terms of speed for effort in terms of longevity. And there's a lot that goes into it. You've got to figure out how to fuel. It's different than what you've ever done. And for me, it's taken a long time, years to figure that part out. So I at least wanted all the race criteria to feel comfortable while I did all the training and figured out all the other variables such as nutrition and, you know, weight loss is a tricky thing while you're training at this level. So those are things that look internally, ask questions of people that you trust, but be careful about crowdsourcing your decision making on these things.
Right. No, I agree. It's got to be a personal. I mean, it's going to be personal, but it's got to be what works for you. And that's like exactly what you're saying. I could make the argument. I can argue any side of anything. I've always said that. So I can make the argument on why a big one, Chicago, New York, especially. And I'll say this to you, Pete. By the way, New York lottery is still open as of recording this for another 2 weeks if you want to put in for early November. But that being said, is New York is a prime example, though. You have to catch a subway to the Staten Island Ferry, to a bus, and you're right. When I did it, I was there for hours. I mean, 3-4 hours before I got into my corral. Chicago, once again, another world major, much different. I was able, once again, it takes you some time to get in and get to your corral, but in most people aren't going to be seated in a 2:30 or a 3:30 pace group time, corral 1 through 12 or whatever. If you're doing your first one, you're going to be farther back. That does give you a little more time to get into it. Either way, I'm not advocating that you should do a bigger one for your first. I chose a small one. You did. The only thing I would recommend, and this is when I say, and I think you'll get this, and hopefully everybody does too, I would highly recommend a legitimate small race, as in, like you said, this one, it's developed into something more. There's going to be several thousand people and they have a big event. I don't want anybody to, when I say to be discouraged, because I've heard the horror stories of somebody, when I say looking for that quote small town race, which I love to go do, but people that you show up and there's 25, 30 people, you know what I mean, doing the race, and like halfway through you don't see anybody for 4 hours and you're between aid stations, and it's just, you really feel like you're on your own completely at that point. This is a big emotional thing that you're going through, and it's kind of nice to have a little bit of companionship. Like you said, there's going to be like 400 people. There's other races going on, so the aid stations are going to be well thought through. There's going to be spectators, which 18 miles, could be 3 hours, could be 5 hours in, depending on how your day is going. It's nice to have that little bit so you don't feel as desolate. I've been on both ends of that, and that's just the one thing I would caution for new people. But once again, it's a personal opinion. If you're looking for that small 40 person, that's absolutely what you want. You're looking for something different than I was. Nothing wrong with that. That's why they make cars in blue and they make cars in green and white and yellow, because everybody wants something different.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm not opposed to big races at all. I could see doing a big race for your first one because I feel the crowd alone, the support in Chicago, which is the one I can speak to, the support alone would carry me to the finish line. Like,
yeah,
there'd be no doubt about finishing at all to me, because that crowd support's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I did look at a race out in California. I think it was like in the Santa Barbara area, maybe. It was beautiful. It was right on the ocean. It was like you look to your left, there's an ocean. You look to your right, there's mountains. And I'm like, this looks awesome. And then I got deeper into it, and I was like, there's like 40 people who do this race.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that could be rough. And then but I'm like, I could do it. And then I watched the video and looked at the course, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, they go out and back and out and back. I'm like, I don't care how beautiful it is. That's not something I want to do.
Yeah.
For me, and for other people, that might be the perfect thing. I have to run around in my neighborhood enough on these long training runs, and it's like that. So I really wanted something that was going to be slightly different, either point to point or a big circle. And this was out and back, and just wasn't for me. And apparently it's not for a lot of people, right? Because they're not growing that race. It's been
Right.
30 to 40 people, and how they do those races, I don't know. It's odd because there's like a big party, so there's a bunch of people watching, but not a lot of people running.
So it would be a good race for our wives to go spectate, but maybe not the best race for us to participate.
Yeah, that's
Well,
very true.
yeah. Well, let's. I had said we talk a little bit about your training. You've already told us a little bit about it. How's it been going? I mean, how many months in? I mean, like I led off with, we're months into this. We are, So how's it been going? How's your build been? You know, how you've been accommodating? Because I know it's been really cold where you're at, and I know you're not the biggest treadmill runner, and
Yeah.
so what have you been doing?
So most of the time, I am willing to put on layers and go out and freeze at the beginning, uh, in order to get this done. I'm a bigger dude, so I've got plenty of insulation as it stands.
But by bigger dude,
I
I believe you're still smaller than me.
No, I think we're probably pretty similar at this point. But I'd like to lose more weight. I'm just struggling with it, but that's for another show.
Yep.
As far as training, I had about an 18 week training plan. May have been 20 total, but there's kind of a rebase building kind of point in there. So
Hmm.
I started training for this like right after I was done with the um,
Seven
race on the
Springs
mountain.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Mud
Seven
on the Mountain
Springs
was it called? Or yeah,
Marathon
whatever.
on the Mountain, I
Marathon on
think.
the Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got done with that, and it was pretty quick after that I started this training cycle. And it has been up and down for me. Mostly up, though. I've had a couple of things that have happened that were odd tweaks, rolled an ankle a couple of times. um, got really just freaked out on a trail I talked about, on our show, where a dog just kind of started yapping at me, and I twisted an ankle. So those kind of uh, setbacks aside, I've been doing fairly well. I've hit paces most of the time. Um, my long runs have been okay. What the challenge has been is the pattern of the long runs that I've been assigned, where you would do 3 weeks of them and then a cutback week, and then you'd go up in mileage, do three more. So, for example, 3 weeks at 16, a cutback week, 3 weeks at 18, a cutback week, 20, and then there was supposed to be a couple of cutbacks, kind of tapering down. Um, so about 3 weeks into the race
Hmm.
to get into the race.
Right.
I've had to change that around because having the kids in this weather, I can't get out early like I'd like. The kids come first, so I've had to make adjustments. So I've had to do some split runs, meaning that I would do maybe 6 miles in the morning and then 12 in the early evening after dropping them back off. Um, this last weekend, I had to really split it up, my 18, and I got it done, but it was really split up a few different ways. And because of that, what I did is talk to my coach and said, "Hey, I'm not real thrilled with the way that this went because of the timing. Can I do 220s instead?" And we talked it through and the pros and cons. And in the end, he's like, "Yeah, we can do this." So the way that this is going to work, kind of heading in, and I'm really concentrating on the long runs here because to me that's what really matters. I'm getting, mm, I would say, 75 to 80% of my weekday runs in,
Hmm.
over the cycle. Um, and which I think is good. I want to be 100%, obviously, but
Right.
I'll take it given the weather and some other setbacks. Um, so for my long run now, I'm heading into where I'm going to do 20 miles this weekend, and then I'll have a cutback week. I think it's 16, and then I'll do 20 miles again, and then have a cutback week of 12, and that's like in the tapering mode because the week after that is the race. So I'm now going to have two 20 milers in my cycle, which I know is fairly unusual for a beginner plan for somebody going into their first marathon. I'm really excited about it because of two things. One, it kind of helps me make up some ground in terms of how I feel my training has gone with trying to run on a treadmill when it's minus 50 out is not my favorite thing. I've done it the last 2 days. Um, today I'm going to get outside one way or the other this afternoon, and it gets me an opportunity to try out my fueling strategy twice before a race at a distance where I feel like it really matters. So I've talked about this on my show a little bit. I've talked about it in my blog. Um, Morton has really been a lifesaver for me. As somebody who tries to be as NSNG as possible, I've found that more difficult the longer I've trained, honestly. And Morton is got sugar, and it makes me feel like a superhero while I'm out there
Yeah.
without any stomach distress. And it's a little bit more expensive, but that 18 miler was awesome. And I took maybe less than 500 calories with me on that training run in terms of Morton. And I felt like it was awesome. I was hungry at the end, but that's to be expected because I didn't really have anything in my stomach to start.
Right.
So yeah, overall, that part of it's been good. And I really think that long runs are, I know it's critical, but I think it's even more critical when I don't have a time component.
Right.
And I really just need the mental boost of hitting that 20, hitting that 2, I think is going to be awesome. I have a little bit of an advantage though going into the race. I've got you. You've done
Well, how
10
am
or
I an
so
advantage?
marathons.
Come on. Yeah.
You've done 10 or so marathons. You know what it's like, and you're a positive dude. And so, my guess is that we're going to be, and neither one of us are want for brevity. We both like to talk.
Yep.
So I have a feeling that the time is going to fly by. So getting to do this with you is a bit of an advantage, but everything that I can do on my part to make sure that that fueling part is good is awesome. And, I got a vest, I've got containers. I will have them all filled up, probably even water in the backpack just in case, sloshing around. We're gonna be ready for this.
I think I've shared, I have to interject. If the water is sloshing, part of it's not right, turn the bladder upside down and make sure, and then you could suck on the hose. You'll get the air out of it. If you have no air, you shouldn't slosh. Sorry.
I never want you to tell me to suck on the hose again.
Just flip it over, man. It's all good.
Yeah, that's definitely, I'm not the best with this kind of stuff, so I'm sure I need to make some adjustments. There's no doubt. And the sloshing could be from the bottles that are in the front of the vest too.
Yeah. True. Cool. I had some other stuff I could interject, but I think I told you, and I'm a little pressed on time because, as you said, you got to go get a run in. I got to go get a run in. I think we've covered up all the key points, and you've already answered, but I'm going to make you say it one more time. You don't have a time goal. You just said that. So what are you looking for on race day?
I'm looking to have fun. I mean, I want to start the race with a smile and I want to end it with a smile. Like, I want to be out there having a good time. I think we should be high-fiving people, encouraging people, having a good talk. I'm sure both of us have plenty of topics we'll bring up. I want to be able to stop and hug my wife, even though she may not want to, depending on how far into the race we are. And I just want to be able to walk around afterwards and enjoy the city. And I might have the medal on for 2 days. I'm not sure. I'm really could care less if
you're only going to wear it for 2 days.
Well, it might be. I might have it on the plane.
It's got to make it through TSA. You're good to go.
Yeah. So I want to do it. I want the experience. I want to soak it in. That's really what I want. And all right, look, there's probably going to come a point in the race where we're halfway done or what have you, and we're feeling good, and then we get down to the last 10K and we're feeling good, and maybe we'll turn up the speed a little bit if it's in there. But that's all secondary. I don't think the competitor in me will come out, but you never know.
I've ran a race with somebody, and I won't mention any names or the distance or the time frame, but where I ran every step with them, and literally in the chute, they decided to throw a kick in so they could finish 1 second before me. So, if that happens, Pete, it's all yours, buddy.
I don't think that would be my goal. We could hold hands or something. Wait, I think that's a plan then.
Yeah, I forgive me, Pete. And I might cut this little section out. I may not. For some reason, my computer just said disc full and cut for a second. We might have lost about 3 seconds. So Pete was talking about holding hands, and then it's bad etiquette, and then we're going to high five. So
Or chest bump. It's gonna just depend on the moment.
manly, yes, sir. Cool. Well, hey, when I said let's wrap this up, what I want to tell everyone, and you and I talked about it already. So you and I are going to do the race. I said it's about a month away, and we're going to get together to do a recap on how the race went. Is that correct?
Absolutely, we're gonna do that, and
Now, the big question, where are we going to do that at, Pete?
we'll put that one up on the Fatman Chronicles feed. So we're gonna have a little teamE4E, Endurance for Everyone, Fatman Chronicles crossover.
Yes.
It's like when they have. Like on TV, when they have characters from each show come on, like a crossover event. That's what it is, a crossover event. So we'll do that right after the race. We'll try to record pretty quickly after that, within a few days, so everything's fresh. And we'll put the recap up over at Fatman Chronicles. You can subscribe on iTunes, just like you do for this podcast. You can check us out at fatmanchronicles.com. I am blogging again, so that's always fun. Good times. I always read John's. I think he reads mine, so it's kind of cool. Have you been keeping up? John's been posting a lot of I think bringing him over from the other website over to the teamE4E. So that's been cool.
And forgive me when I say I have not. I read at one point. I made it a point. I'm a completionist, and that's why you got me onto Gomers. I've been binging all that now, and as such, there's other shows I haven't been listening to. But I say that because at one point I literally went back to John's first blog post and read everything up to just about when I started on the show a year and a half ago. I had read every single one of them. And then he wasn't blogging consistent, or at that point it was more reposts, and I kind of got out of the habit, and I haven't really gotten back into it at this point. And it just comes down to time. There's only so many things I can do, and that's not something that I've put in rotation just yet. So might have to.
A lot of these have been a repost, so you've probably read most of them, and I think I had too. But it's interesting to see when you read these things at a certain point in time, like where your head is. It could give a little bit different meaning. So it's been fun.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, Pete, I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and jump off of here. You've already given all the information on how they can find you and where we'll do the recap. I'm sure anybody who wants to talk to you, most of the people in the group know you in the group. So if we have any questions, feel free to reach out to Pete or myself, or even just give him a little thumbs up, nudge. About just under a month away, he's gonna do it for the first time. So that's all I have. Appreciate you coming on, Pete.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.